Okay, hi, welcome, and it's just great to be back in London. It's great to be back at the PTS, and I'm delighted to be here to present what appears to be a large gold exhibit on Great Britain postal developments 1584 to 1840, and the subsequent development of the one penny stamp 1840 to 1880. This is the opening page of this exhibit. Now, if you're exhibiting with your opening page, you can generally get away with putting a lot of items on there that don't relate to the story. So at the bottom left, I've just put two beautiful, attractive covers to make it look attractive. I've got an introduction. What I've also done, which I've not seen many exhibitors do, is to have a time scale here, which gives you a quick resume of where this exhibit is going. Then there's a plan of the exhibit of the 8 frames. Okay, so what this timeline tells us is we're going to start at about 1661. We go a little bit before there. Then we're going to look at the Dockra, the penny black, the introduction of the new colour, the new dye, and then the end of the story with the new design. Okay, but before that, first page is not here. Okay, so but how did we end up with the penny black and the penny red? Well, as with most things, we look backwards and we look backwards, and we can keep on going backwards. Now, what's happened with this exhibit is that as a little lad, I started collecting the very cheap penny stars. I didn't understand them. They didn't have the plate numbers down the side. And myself and my father, every Saturday morning, we toddle off to our local stamp shops in Bristol, and we would annoy their dealers, and we'd buy all these cheap penny reds. Now that gradually evolved into a really good understanding of the line engraved concept and a study of the penny red. I then said, well, where's the penny red come from? Okay, it's come from the penny black. Where's the penny black come from? The penny black has come from Postal Reform, the 3rd stage of Postal Reform. Okay, if that's the 3rd stage of Postal Reform, what's the 2nd stage of Postal Reform? What's the 1st stage of Postal Reform? Why did we have Postal Reform? And before I knew where I was going, I ended up in Elizabethan Britain with the start of the National Postal Service. How did the National Postal Service start? Well, it evolved as a taxation to raise money for the government and the king. It evolved from the king's personal messengers being allowed to charge money to carry private mail. So the exhibit opens up with 2 very rare early documents dated 1584 and 1615, 1616, which are receipts from actual royal messengers for letters carried on behalf of the king. So we have a king's messenger service, which then, particularly under the reign of King Charles I, who needed lots of money to pay for his extravagant lifestyle and his civil war, he extends his personal or the state postal service to form a national postal service. This is a very rare document, 1657, which formalizes the act of forming the post office in Britain. Moving on from the Elizabethan period, after the Civil War, we have the restoration of the monarchy, and we see the introduction of the very first hand stamps in the UK. At this time, the post office was what we call farmed out to an individual. So an individual would say, I'll tell you what, Charlie, I will run the post office and I'll pay you, I think it was £25,000 a year, And the first person who took on that responsibility was Henry Bishop, and he introduced the well-known bishop mark. That was introduced in 1661. I've got an example here, first year, 1661. I've done a bit of research on the first year bishop mark. I got it all wrong because Alan Holyoake, in his incredible display next to mine, has one that predates all my research. Thank you, Alan. This is the fifth earliest I had recorded, the fifth earliest of 22 examples. General research and my research suggests the first date was the 19th of April, but in fact, Alan Holyoake has one dated March the 27th, 1661. So we have a 1661 bishop mark, a 1662 bishop mark, and to the right is a 1665 bishop mark addressed to Samuel Pepys, which I thought was pretty spectacular. I bought it, and I didn't know how I was going to get it into the exhibit, but it fits. What I would say is that I didn't wake up one morning and say, right, I'm going to do an exhibit on GB or postal history or GB and postal history. This exhibit has gradually, organically evolved over a number of years. I'm lucky. My business is successful. I have a passion about GB collecting. And over the years, I kind of just bought the odd item, put it in a box, and then wondered what I was going to do with it. This is the result. So a lot of these items have just been bought quite casually over the last 30, 35 years. And the exhibit we see today is the result of that. So following the bishop mark, in 1682, we have the introduction of the second-hand stamp, the Docra, which was used at 5 or 6 offices, Chief Office, Bishopsgate, Hermitage, etc., etc. This here is a very rare original newspaper clipping dated April 1681 to say, right, this is what is going to be introduced. It's a superb document illustrating the Docra. Okay, so we've seen the emergence of a national postal service. We've seen Henry Bishop introduce his bishop mark, Docra introduce his hand stamp. The National Postal Service then effectively becomes an enormous tax-raising system on behalf of the state. And what we see with the involvement of the British government in the Napoleonic Wars, we see price increases for postage 1765, 1784, 1796, 1801, 1805, and 1812. So we have a very expensive system, as outlined by these two letters, where the recipient would have been charged £1.611, so a lot of money, and this one would have been charged 20 shillings and 5 pence, plus a half D for crossing the Scottish border in a carriage with more than 2 wheels, I believe. So we've got a system that has got very high postal charges and is not really fit for purpose. What happens is, in the 30s, there's a clamour for postal reform, which is when this exhibit really starts to get going. Okay, we have a clamour from business and politicians for a reform of the system. These two documents here highlight the absurdity of the system as we have it in the 1830s. This little envelope here with the enclosure, because it comprises 2 pieces of paper, i.e. an envelope and a letter, would have been charged at a double rate. This enormous letter here, because it's 1 piece of paper, would have been charged at a single rate. It's crazy. Double rate, single rate. A lot of pressure for reform. So the first stage of postal reform is 5th of December 1839, where we have the introduction of a uniform fourpenny post, where the renewed reduced scale of postage will come into operation on the 5th of December, 1839. Okay, so we have the Uniform Fourpenny Post introduced 5th of December. This is an example of a first day cover of the Uniform Fourpenny Post used on the 5th of December, 1839 from Glasgow. Very, very rare to find a hand stamp used on the first day. Not many offices at all were ready for the introduction of the Uniform Fourpenny Post. To get a hand stamp, most unusual. This is from the collection of the late Bruce Auckland, very well-known cover. Very few offices in England were ready and had hand stamps prepared. These two examples is a hand stamp for there of, I think it's one Sherborne and the other is Dorchester, both in Dorset. Again, they are unique hand stamps from the Uniform Fourpenny Post period. Last day. Okay, so the Uniform Fourpenny has been introduced. It is a success. It lasts from the 5th of December, 1839 to the 9th of January, 1840. This is an example of the last day. If the recipient had sent it next day, on the 10th of January, when the Uniform Penny Post was introduced, yeah, it would have cost a penny, but he didn't. This letter here is written, I've got to send the letter to you because there's an outbreak of war in China, hot news. And he says that I'm sending it today, it's going to cost you 8p. If I'd waited until tomorrow, it would have cost you a penny. But it's hot news, so bad luck, you're paying 8p instead of a penny. So on the 10th of January, we have the second stage of postal reform, the introduction of the Uniform Penny Post. This is a rare postal notice. On or after the 10th of January, a letter not exceeding half an ounce in weight can be sent from any part of the UK. So we've got a lot cheaper postage than we had in the mid-1830s. This, I would argue, 10th of January 1840, is the most important stage of postal reform because it opened up the postal service for everybody. Okay, the penny black is kind of important, but that was just a later receipt for the service. This is the key date, 10th of January. Okay, that's the first day cover. That's the first day cover on the 10th of January, which has been prepaid, a penny. That's the first day cover where it's been unpaid. So it's got a double surcharge, twopence to pay. But was it a success? Yes, it was a success. This remarkable original document details the increase in revenue, etc. I'm not going to go into this now, but all of these items can be viewed on the exhibit on the village green. It frames. Where are we? Frames. I don't know. It didn't write it down, unfortunately. 210 to 217. So Rowland Hill is thinking, right, we would like a receipt for this postal service. So he invites men of letters to submit their designs. This is an original Charles Whiting essay, which you can argue is the root of the postage stamp, because here we have a sticky label with a cancellation. It's ultimately not successful, and so Rowland Hill comes up with the concept of the penny black. Where does he get the core parts of the design from? He takes the head from the William Wine City Medal, minted for the Queen's visit to the City of London in 1837. And he takes the background from this banknote proof produced by Perkins Bacon when they came over from America in the 1820s to try and win the banknote printing contract. So we have head and background equal the issued stamp. The two die proofs in the middle are unaccepted background die-proofs. And this is a quite charming clipping for the Times, dated September 1838, praising the great beauty of the wire medal. So we have head backgrounds equals issued stamp. Okay, so we've got wire medal and the engine turned background. Here are three original and very rare imprimatas from the penny black plates. The imprimatas were the proof sheets printed by Perkins Bacon as an official record of the plate. And if the imprimatur sheet was okay, it was let it be printed, which is what imprimatur means in Latin. This is a copy of, a lot of the imprimatur sheets actually are still around at the Postal Archive, Postal Museum, whatever the National Postal Museum. And you can see that this one here, which is in fact from plate 5, which is where this one would have been from here, have had over the years about 20 examples removed. So your imprimatur is your first original impression from a penny black plate. So we've got a stamp ready to be issued, the third stage of postal reform, and really the most insignificant was the issuing of the penny black on May the 6th, 1840. This is an original first day cover. It's one of the finest in existence. And there's a great book on all the May date usages by Mike Jackson. And he records he records more than 85 examples, but I've gone through the book and I think there are 85 examples which appear genuine. Several are in institutional collections, and of this 85, 61 are used in London, which this is used in London, and 41 appear to be in fine condition, i.e. they clearly belong and they've got good margins. This is certainly one of those, and it's graced the collections of Sugden when it was sold in 1951 for £77, 10 bob, and it also graced the collection of the Swiss magnate Maurice Burrus, whose collection was sold in October '63, where it realised £130, a lot of money. Fascinating clipping again from the Times. This clipping is from a member of the general public in Manchester who, on the 6th of May, received a penny black on a cover which was uncancelled. So what does he do? He writes to the Times and he reuses the stamp. And the Times comments that these stamps and covers reflect dishonour on both the arts and the good sense of the country. We see the penny black as a great success, but it was not everyone saw it as a great success at the time. There's some nice multiples of penny blacks. This has got to be one of the finest blocks known. That block at lower right is an interesting piece. It's from penny black plate 10. It came up in the Sir Leonard Atkinson sale by Christie Robson Lowe in 1990, where I find out after I purchased it, it was a strip of 6 on cover. It was a strip of 6. That was the largest known piece from plate 10 at the time. Some idiot has removed the 6 stamp at right, which was damaged. It's still a very nice cover, but the rate is not right. And it's now the second largest piece. But so kind of research and pedigree. I'd still have bought it, I suppose, but it's a shame. It's some nice covers with penny posts on. A nice block of 8, or not quite actually. It's a beautiful block of 6 with a vertical pair at left, which was on the original document from the same sheet, which has been stuck back onto it. It's quite interesting, very interesting, this one, because when it first came up in Spink, I think it was on a tatty piece, and the block of 6 was horizontal, and the vertical pair was stuck at an angle. Someone's obviously bought it, smartened it up, realigned it, and then it now appears as a nice looking block of 8. This lower item is really quite remarkable. In February 1841, they changed the colour of the Maltese cross from red to black. This is a piece. It's got a few faults, but it's February 1841. It's been used twice on the same day, 11th of February 1841, which is either the first day or the second day after they changed the colour of the Maltese cross. The first posting in London, it's got a penny black with a red Maltese cross. Okay, that's normal. It's then being turned over, and it's got another penny black on with a black Maltese cross. Quite incredible usage. First one I've ever seen. Not perfect, but I thought it was worthwhile. Nice little item. This is a turned cover with the world's first 2 postage stamps on. Right? I bought this collection, right? And I paid a lot of money for it, but and the collector went off with his big check, and then my son was looking through the collection, and he said, "Hey, Dad, you know there's a stamp on the inside of this cover as well." So much to my embarrassment, I had to contact the person and say, "Look, we've got we've got a black and a blue here," and Tom Louis, who is one of the major stakeholders in curler auctions, he has phenomenal knowledge on GB. If you want to find out the pedigree of anything, contact Carl Louis. He tells me that there are 4 such combination reused covers. 811 is the scarcest. That's a single, a piece, and a cover. Very early on, the Inland Revenue, who are responsible for stamp design, became obsessed with the possibility of postal fraud and people reusing the stamps. So they decided to organise some colour trials in June to August 1840, and they've been called since, when were they? In 1863, collectors started to call them the rainbow trials. They're very scarce, and they resulted in the change of colour from the penny stamp from black to red. Nice postal notice. February 1841, we have the change of colour from black to red. This is an interesting selection of match pairs and a match quartet, right, which we have here. All these stamps are from plate 8, and they're all lettered BD, Bravo Delta. We have penny black with a red Maltese cross, Bravo Delta, penny black with a black Maltese cross, Bravo Delta, penny red with a black Maltese cross, and a penny red with a red Maltese cross. Quite remarkable, I thought, to try and achieve that, and it took me about a week. I got really, really lucky. This is a superb block of 4 Dickinson experimental paper, it's from the Lady Joycey collection, auctioned by Spink last year, I believe. And it was just so fresh. Most Dickinson pieces are creased and damaged. This block here is beautiful condition, and it has silk threads running through it, which we first see on them already, as shown above. It was considered a very successful experiment, but for some reason it was not proceeded with. I guess cost, I don't know. Mint penny reds from plate 13, including the largest known block, which is ex-J.B. Seymour, who was one of the great pioneer philatelists. Also, apparently, president of the Magic Circle. There we are. Blanquet error. Right. When I exhibited at Stockholm and it got a gold award, I had 2 free margin copies of the B blank. I thought, A dealer came up to me and said, "I'd like to buy your B blanks." So we agreed a deal, and as that deal went through, I approached the owner of the best known B blank here, and the only one known used in Ireland. There are how many B blanks? Examples. There are 28 examples recorded, and one on cover, 5 on piece, 22 singles. That's the only one known used in Ireland. The B blank, for those who don't know the variety, is where when they were laying down the plates, they did not put the A in a lower letter square. It was subsequently noticed, and the A was then inserted, but not until a small number of sheets had been printed. So that is the finest example of the B blank A in existence, which graced the Daisy collection, very wealthy Swiss collector, Henri Legrand, who won the Grand Prix International at London 1980, and whose collection was sold by Christie's in 1996. Superb piece. There's some nice mint pieces. A Union Jack re-entry in a strip of 6. I don't really want to go too much into these now because I'm going to fly through these. But all this material is on display downstairs. Introduction of perforation. At this time, all these stamps were cut from the sheets by scissors. It was a laborious process. An Irishman, Henry Archer, came up with the concept of perforation. And after much disagreement with the Inland Revenue, the concept his patent was purchased, and we have the introduction of perforation in 1854. Before that, Archer conducted some trials. That's a copy of his roulette trial, and all the others are Archer perforations. So we have the introduction of perforation, some really nice mint examples, some nice used blocks, corner pieces, right, of the very first perforation issue. Any stamp before the Letters in Awful Corner 1858, 1864 issue with plate numbers, plate number 176, 171, 171, and reserve 3 are incredibly rare, because a lot of these margins would just be ripped off and thrown away. So I've always had an eye for these corner blocks. I love them. This is a time where you can find combinations of in-perf and perf stamps on the same cover. And Carl Louis, he's got records of 14 covers used in 1854. Which is the period of the introduction. So it's only 14. It's scare stuff. Corner blocks, okay? Who says nothing ever turns up these days? At the auction in the Midlands, got hold of, a couple of years ago, the lower half of a sheet of the first issue perforation, and that contained the 2 corner copies. Had to have them, really, from plate reserve 5. What I really like about it, okay, you've got the description, you've got the plate number reserve 5, but you've got incredible bluing around the outside. They're, again, they're downstairs for you to have a look at. Perforation 14, the perforation 16 gauge was found. It was found that the blocks would separate quite easily. So they had an experimental use of a perforation 14, which meant the perforations were wider, and that was a success and continued in use, and actually became the main perforation. This was a page put together by my father years ago, who was very keen on penny reds, and I kept it intact as a kind of memento to my father, who really got me into all this, I suppose. And it shows you that Perkins Baker had a problem with colour. This one, I suspect, has been dipped in quick. Yeah, it's looks. I thought it looked impressive. Right, plate varieties. Plate varieties. Worn plates. if you want to see what happens if they do not harden a plate, that's how you want to look at. It's incredibly worn. Perkins Bacon had a problem. If they hardened the plate, it was difficult to repair. If they left the plate unhardened, it would wear, but it would wear very quickly. So to harden or to unharden was a big dilemma for them in this period of time. This is a crown floor on plate 166, where the engraver has really gashed a recess into the plate, and every recess into a plate will pick up ink. And here we see it on imperforate and perforate issues. A major re-entry, where you can see these major marks, imperforate and perforate, and on cover. Misperforated examples. Error imperforates. All line engraved from this middle period, which are error imperforate or three sides imperforate, are incredibly rare. This is a piece I picked up years ago in a Phillips auction. I mean, Phillips don't even auction on stamps, do they now? I picked it up in an auction for about 500 quid. And what it is, it's perforated, imperforate, imperforate. Incredibly rare. I've seen 2 or 3 since, and it's matched with the imprimatur. Major problems with perforation, where the perforation combs have broken. Frank Ives Scudamore was an employee of the Inland Revenue who was employed to monitor quality control. He was given a hand stamp which read Frank Ives Scudamore, Chief Examiner, and any sheets that were damaged or not suitable for use, he would hand stamp them and they should have been destroyed. Or so we thought. Prior to the mid-80s, no pieces were known. There was a couple of shilling embossed, a couple of Topney blues, no penny reds. And then a Sotheby's catalogue dropped through my letterbox with an enormous thud. And in it were hundreds and hundreds of singletons and large blocks with these hand stamps. Nobody knew what to think about it. I did. I thought, right, I'm going to go big on this. So I went to Sotheby's. I bought lots of it, which I did quite okay with, and I kept 1 or 2 pieces. These are some die 1 pieces, and I say, well done, Frank, for not destroying the blocks. Usages. I mean, the penny red is a very, very versatile stamp. Here we see it going to France, Spain, uprated with a temporary embossed, Germany, and internal registered usage. I like it. I like that page a lot. There's a section of imprimaturs, including imprimaturs from the plates they never used. Perkins Bacon held in reserve a series of plates. And the only way you can get examples from those plates is an imprimatur from the reserve plates. And some people say, well, the plates were never used. Who wants a copy? I want a copy. And I think the only way you can get them are the imprimaturs. So in 1855, we have a major development where the old dye, which was used for the penny blacks and all the penny reds, is starting to wear. So they commissioned the original engraver to re-engrave the old dye. He does it beautifully, and we have die 2. This is an original die proof in black from die 2. Imprimaturs. Can never leave imprimaturs alone. A beautiful second die 2 original proof in Prussian blue with a corner block. A piece of the newly introduced large crown watermark paper, which was introduced as another step against perceived fraud. There was hardly any fraud going on, as we'll find out later. Mint blocks with corner plate number, used blocks, Scudamore, but die 2. Okay, this is probably the largest known block, because when they came on the market, a lot of pieces were cut up into strips of 4. You need a strip of 4 to show the complete signature. And that's a block of 60 from die 2, plate 2. And then, quite incredibly, a dealer came along and he said, "Hey, Bill, you're into Scudamore. Here's a piece of Inland Revenue headed notepaper with his actual signature along." And so if you compare his actual signature to the hand stamp, upside down, but it's a very good comparison. I thought it's incredible to match the two. Used multiples on cover, a major re-entry, more multiple usages, generally paying registered mail. The colour problem. Everyone says, "Hey, Bill, what is a plum shade? What's a plum? Is it Victoria plum? Is it red plum? Or what is it?" Okay, so if you want to know what a plum shade is, those two covers, upper covers there, will show. You can't particularly note it from this reproduction here, but they are excellent examples of the plum shade with a kind of greyish hue to it. 1854 sees the British troops marching off to the Crimea to fight the Russians, and who else was, and the Sardinians. It sees the British troops, along with France, Turkey, and Sardinia, fighting the Russians, Bulgaria, and Greece. A British post office set up in Constantinople. You had 2 hand stamps. This is a quite incredible block of 38 penny reds with what is the OXO cancellation. If you look here, you'll see it's not a numeral cancellation, which were in use at most British post offices, but it reads OXO, which was the hand stamp, one of the hand stamps used at the British Post Office, Constantinople, on mail from the troops back to the UK. This is very interesting. This is a Shuckburgh correspondence, which is a substantial correspondence from the Crimean War, and it follows this soldier from his departure at I think Southampton to Varna. He fights in Alma. He experiences the charge of the Light Brigade, and in fact that letter at bottom right without the stamps is a letter describing how the Light Brigade was cut to pieces. It's real history. That's Crimean War cancellations. This is the other cancellation used, which was cipher, crown, cipher. Okay, so we're looking at these die 2 stamps. They should all be perforated, apart from the imprimaturs. Very, very rarely you see errors in perforate. This is a single error in perforate from plate 7. Another one there, that's large crown watermark, small crown watermark. This is X Maximus. Maximus is the name given to the collection of stunning collection of Great Britain, formed by the late President of the Royal, Ron Lee, and was auctioned by Gibbons, I think, in 4 auctions in 1970. This is an error in perforate strip of 7, unbelievable piece. It's cut into all over the place, but it's still a quite remarkable survivor. This is an error in perforate on cover. There's only 2 covers known. This graced the collection of the late Lady Mary Berry, which was sold by Sotheby's in the 90s, I think. This is also error in perf, but it's from an experimental Neil steam press, which this item, quite interesting. It turned up at the end, I'm going back years ago, where us dealers and the auction houses, we used to get a break in the summer. We used to get a couple of weeks off. This was auctioned by a major London auction house as a mint block of penny reds. And I bought it for, I think, 500 quid. It's actually, and they thought it was just die 1, basic in perf. In fact, it's die 2, error in perforate. It's quite a remarkable piece. And it's from an unrecorded experimental printing by a steam press by a chap called Neil. Anybody recognise this happy guy here? Robson Lowe. Okay, so Robson Lowe is going to a stamp show in October 1947. He is looking through the stock of the late great Ron Alcock of Cheltenham. He finds this cover here, this upper cover here. He spots it, it's die 2. It's die 2, error imperforate. And of course he buys it. And it's illustrated in Robson Lowe's Encyclopedia of British Empire Postage Stamps, where he describes it as, here is possibly the rarest piece known in Liney grade Great Britain, and imperforate Super 6 of the die 2, alphabet 2 on paper watermark large crown. These should all have been perforated. It's a beautiful cover. I tried to buy it in Christie Robson Lowe, I don't know, 25 years ago. I didn't get it. And then it turned up in a European auction 2 or 3 years ago. And I thought, yeah, business is good, let's go for it. So, I mean, it's no longer, it's not the greatest piece, you know, as Robson Lowe said, because there are wonderful covers out there, such as, you know, the combination of the one cover known with the penny black, the blue, and the penny red on, which has got to be better than that. But it's still a remarkable usage. More errors in perforate, including inverted watermark, and I think a lot of this, we're now going to have to wait for another day to see most of it. I'm just going to quickly skim through it. Imperforates, Neil's press at the bottom right there. Large, gorgeous, large known, gorgeous, large mint pieces from the penny star. This is not the issue with the letters in all 4 corners, which is the common penny red. This is the issue with the stars in the upper squares. These pieces here came from the Chartwell Collection. Chartwell was a pseudonym for a very wealthy industrialist in Northampton who died in 2000. His collections were auctioned by Spink over a year, within a year. When did you sell them? Was it 15 years ago or something? Yeah, it's about 15 years ago. And these are in breathtakingly fresh condition, because they have been, they were in his personal safe, didn't see sunlight for years and years and years. But you want to see them in the flesh, they're all downstairs. Some more mint pieces. This is die 2 plate 27, including the AD-BD re-entry, which is one of the holy grails for perforated collectors. This is the unique imprimatur. This is the unique small crown stamp, both extra personal collection of Tony Alcock. Lower right, you've got the Perkins Bacon, South Kensington printing in black. Rare plates, even more rare plates. Errors in perforate again. Errors in perforate. The penny star uprating the penny Mulready. All right. Here we have a penny Mulready with a penny star used in 1860. It's the only one that exists that is genuine. This is not quite so good. Still nice. It's a totally facsimile of the Mulready, uprated with a penny star. You know, I had to come to an accommodation with the late Hassan Shaida to be able to buy that that top cover. More usages. I mean, I love the usages. You know, I remember years ago I saw an exhibit on penny reds, and the guy just had sheets and sheets and sheets of singletons. This is a dot here, there's a gash here, there's a blob here or something. And I thought, if I'm going to do penny reds, I'm going to do covers as well. And these 3 covers along the bottom are all showing the shilling rate to the US. This one's got 12 pennies stuck along on top of each other. This one's got 12 on the back. That's got 12 at the left, 12 at the top, and 12 at the right. Fun times. See, it was such a versatile stamp. You could do anything with it. foil it. You could even send it to South America. This is a beautiful, beautiful correspondence going down to Mexico. I mean, just usages, so they're just so colourful. Coloured cancellations. The red stamp should be cancelled in black. Here we've got red brown cancellations, red cancellations, purple brown cancellations, blue, and purple at the bottom there. Late usage of the Maltese cross. Maltese cross was phased out in 1844, but we've got usage on cover here from the 1850s. Nice. Irish local usage, where it's such a small village in Cork that they didn't have a cancellation. So they've used a straight line receiving hand stamp. Same in Scotland, Scots locals. Cancellations. Okay. So we're now moving forward pretty fast to the mid-1850s, where we find this cover here. This is one of the only successful postal frauds that I think is really genuine. Someone has taken two uncancelled halves of two stamps, stuck them together and reused it. How can you tell? Well, when I went to school, penny was spelled P-E-N-N-Y. If you look here, we've got P-E-E-N-N-Y. It's beautiful. I mean, it's the only successful fraud that I've seen of that issue. So there's a change in design, and we have letters in all four corners, an issue we're all very familiar with. And these three lower covers show combinations of letters in all four corners and penny star. You think that's a common combination, but it is not. And my friend Carl Louis tells me there are only 17 covers known with that combination. Overprints, but they're double overprints. Seldom see those. Okay, 1867, there is an exhibition in Paris, and Perkins Bacon want to take a sample of their goods. So they receive dispensation to print several sheets to take to the show. One of them was from penny plate number 103 in black on thick card. This is the actual block of 20 penny plate number 103 printed on thick card in black, in perforate, taken to the show. Incredible. I'm amazed it still exists. At the bottom are a couple of die proofs. By this time, Perkins Bacon are fighting to keep the printing contract from Barrell, who can produce stamps in many more colours, which are doubly fugitive. So Perkins Bacon are trying all sorts of colours to try and maintain a contract. This one is without that corner letters in purple, extra collection of Harold Fisher. This one has a far better pedigree. It's actually the royal certificate was submitted by the Keeper of the Privy Council. That is the Royal Collection. So Perkins Bacon lose the contract up to the low values. It goes to Delarue. So we've reached the end of the story, almost. The last four sheets I'm going to show you are late usage of the stamps. This is in 1890, where we have a celebration of the uniform penny post held in London with various events and various souvenirs, including this stunning menu card with penny black, penny reds, and the penny Venetian. Late usage. This is bizarre. This is in 1911. There is the aerial post held between Windsor and London. This is only example of the penny red, penny star, I've seen used on a 1911 usage. And to conclude, collage, very pretty collage, which shows that even after the duty stamps have been designed, which we've seen, printed, which we've seen, used, which we've seen, and discarded, they still had a purpose. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure.
Would anyone like to ask any questions? You're open to some questions?
Yeah. Any queries? Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the question was the cover that had the 12 overlaps.
Yeah.
Anyway, was that authorized usage? Like, do you see many?
No,
like
no,
that?
you don't. No. It's just where someone has said, right, okay, I'm going to overlap them, boom, 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 and it's been accepted. I mean, it shouldn't be done because the post office weren't to know that they weren't half stamps. So, you know, yeah, it's not. I've not seen it. Yeah.
This is a ridiculous question, Bill.
Go on then.
I'm sorry to be so naive.
Yeah.
But can you explain to this layman?
Yeah.
How did the lettering become? How was that a security feature? How did it stop misuse of stamps?
Okay. Right. In theory, someone could produce a plate of one stamp. Okay, and they will put in, say, D in the lower left and C in the lower right. Okay, DC, right? Okay, yeah, that's Derek's initials. And then they would print, but they'd all be lettered DC. So the postal authorities would notice a prevalence of, say, DCs used in Chichester. They would be alerted to possible fraud. And yeah. So, you know, if they would see, you know, a prevalence of one particular letter, alarm bells would ring. But in fact, there was very little fraud going on. There was very little fraud going on because in where are we? Okay, in the 1850s, the Inland Revenue did an examination of 100,000 stamps, and they found two that had been composed of the two uncancelled portions of different stamps. Two. Now you compare that to the modern matching usage, where you go on eBay and there are tons of reused stamps out there. Perkins Bacon, it was a great product. It's a fantastic product. You know, produced over 40 years, and 100,000 stamps examined, 2 forgeries. Remarkable. Okay, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Hello, I'm Irene Green. I'm the half